mass vaccination site as we launch the newest phase of our state's vaccination administration plan for those 65 and over and for frontline essential workers. Thanks to the Illinois National Guard, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and the Cook County Department of Public Health, this is now the 7th new vaccination site that we've set up across Cook County, with similar efforts ramping up in regions all across the state, with approximately 25 more National Guard teams set to launch in the next few weeks alone. As more vaccine becomes available from the federal government, additional mass vaccination sites are slated to begin operations, building on existing community vaccination efforts of your local health departments. And hundreds of additional pharmacies are getting ready to offer vaccinations statewide. This Tinley Park location, which will start its appointment-only vaccinations tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., is set to do 9,000 vaccinations per week, with the capacity to administer 18,000 weekly doses when our federal supply increases. And this is just one of many locations that have been launched in partnership with local public health departments or pharmacies. Widespread vaccination sites will allow us to quickly and efficiently get these life-saving doses to Illinoisans as more federal shipments of vaccine come online. I want to recognize Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, Cook County Health CEO Israel Rocha Jr., and Cook County Health COO and Ambulatory Services lead Ileana Mora for making this site possible. And a big thank you to Senator Mike Hastings, who's here to my right, Representative Debbie Myers-Martin, our Cook County commissioners that are here joining us, Major General Richard Neely, the Adjutant General of the Illinois National Guard. I may have forgotten other elected officials, I hope I haven't, but I want to make sure that they're all recognized. A special thanks to Dr. Whitney Lynn, a family medicine physician here in Cook County, for coming, because she's going to share her vaccine experience with all of you. Appointments to be vaccinated at this location will launch at noon today, and President Preckwinkle will offer more details about how Cook County residents can access the appointment process in just a moment. And all Illinoisans, whether you live here in the south suburbs, in Rockford, the Quad Cities, East St. Louis, Cairo, or anywhere in between, can find what vaccination locations are available near them by going online to coronavirus.illinois.gov. Our statewide vaccine locator on that website is searchable by both zip code and city. You'll also find a guide to who qualifies for vaccines in this new Phase 1B. Broadly, it includes those 65 and over and those classified by the CDC as frontline essential workers, such as teachers, first responders, and grocery workers. This website also directs people to the COVID-19 vaccine registration or appointment booking homepages of county public health departments, as well as for our pharmacy partners like Walgreens. Already, Walgreens and Jewel Osco are adding appointments at hundreds of locations statewide, and CVS, Hy-Vee, Mariano's, and Kroger will soon follow. Hundreds more locations will be added as more vaccine is shipped by the federal government from vaccine manufacturers. Nearly 750,000 doses of vaccine have been administered in Illinois already. And the rollout of Phase 1B is truly an exciting development. But I want to remind everyone that there are only about 120,000 first doses arriving in Illinois, outside of Chicago that is, this week. Because of the federal supply limitations, I want to emphasize that vaccinations are being given by appointment only. I've said that before, but I want to make it clear so people don't go line up at their local pharmacy or line up at their local health department. we need you to make sure and make an appointment for your vaccination. And that'll be the case, by the way, for the vast majority of people. That is, that you may be unable to make an appointment immediately, but just know that you can check back at coronavirus.illinois.gov or directly with your area pharmacy or your local health department to see when vaccines are becoming available. More appointment times will be added each week as more federal vaccine supply is shipped. Every state in the nation is experiencing this same shortage. It's another example of the Trump administration's tragic incompetence that they didn't invoke the Defense Production Act and didn't order more vaccine from the manufacturers. Well, we have a new president now, and he's already taken steps to expand vaccine manufacturing, and in the meantime, Illinois has taken the steps necessary to be ready, with sites like here in Tinley Park to vaccinate as soon as those expanded shipments arrive. Still, for the time being, please everyone, mask up, keep your distance, wash your hands, and remember, we'll stay healthy and safe if we look out for one another. So thank you, and I want to now introduce someone who's been working hard every day to keep the people of Cook County safe and healthy, and that's Cook County Board President Tony Pritzker. Tony.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank you, Governor Pritzker. We're deeply grateful for the help and support that we've gotten from the state, and particularly today the National Guard, who are helping us stand up this vaccination site. It's an honor to be here, and before we start, I want to acknowledge our other speakers and elected officials who are present, in addition to Governor Pritzker, of course, Commissioner Deere, who is head of our Health Committee in the Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Morrison and Commissioner Miller, who represent this area, Commissioner Anaya, continue Phase 1A vaccinations and begin Phase 1B. I'm proud to be standing here with Governor Pritzker and my colleagues to announce that the Tinley Park Convention Center will serve as Cook County's first large-scale vaccination site. This is the first of several that will be opening soon. Opening tomorrow, this site represents one of at least 5 larger vaccination sites that will be opening across suburban Cook County in the coming days and weeks. Additionally, today at noon, we will officially launch the county's vaccination sign-up webpage for residents who live or work in Cook County. Individuals included in Phase 1B, that's residents 65 and older, essential frontline workers, such as first responders, our police and firefighters, EMT folks, manufacturing employees, grocery store personnel, pharmacy personnel, and others will now be able to go to our website, vaccine.cookcountyil.gov. I'm going to say that again, vaccine.cookcountyil.gov, to learn more about the vaccine, check for updates, and set an appointment to get vaccinated when the vaccine is available. Again, one more time, vaccine.cookcountyil.gov. For those of us who are not technologically savvy, I include myself in that category, we also have established a hotline for anyone in 1B looking to schedule a vaccine appointment. The call center will go live today at noon as well, and the number is 833-308-1988. 833-308-1988. It's available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And while we're excited to be taking these steps, I want to make sure that we set clear expectations. At this moment, not just here, but across the country, demand is heavily outweighing our supply of vaccines. One more time. Demand is heavily outweighing our supply of the vaccines. By our estimates, over 600,000 suburban individuals are eligible for vaccination in Phase 1B, 600,000 people. However, we do not have adequate vaccine supply to vaccinate everyone immediately. So with this in mind, we're once again asking for your patience. While current supply does not now meet demand, we're standing up large-scale sites like this one to ensure that we're ready as vaccine continues to be distributed in Cook County. In partnership with the state of Illinois, we stand ready to contribute to the Biden administration's goal of vaccinating 100 million people in the first 100 days. Today is a hopeful day for our county and our state, but today also represents something personal for me. As a Black woman and as the mother of a nurse, I can tell you firsthand that our communities are ready for the next chapter. Last year when the pandemic began, the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office and Cook County Health worked to establish a protocol and build capacity for what we knew would be a surge in deaths. Don't get me wrong, we're still losing lives every day. More than 400,000 Americans have succumbed to the disease. But now, a year later, I'm so grateful to be here, planning for a surge in residents getting the vaccine. Today, that sliver of light at the end of the tunnel is just a bit brighter. Now I'd like to welcome to the podium Israel Rocha. I'm very grateful to him for coming to head our healthcare system in this tumultuous time. I tease him all the time about not wanting to go back to New York. So I am very grateful to introduce Israel Rocha. Thank you.
Do what you've always done, you're going to always get what you've always got. The 2 points are, every single person has to get vaccinated. I've talked to people in my community and they have said, well, I don't want to get vaccinated because that's the Tuskegee experiment. Well, listen, this is not that, all right? This is not that. And so we want you to get vaccinated, right? Now, the second point is that we all have to realize that the African American community and the Latino community has been hit hardest by this virus. Over 400,000 deaths across this country. 25 million people across the country have contracted COVID. That's a lot of people. So guess what? Although we want everybody to get vaccinated, we want you to get vaccinated using something that my mom would often tell me to use. She said, son, in all things, have patience. She told me that patience was a virtue. And so as we are unrolling and unveiling this mass vaccination site, and those who are in the subcategory to get their vaccination, please have patience. Everyone won't be able to get vaccinated at the same time, but one thing we can assure you that will happen. If you want to get vaccinated, you will get vaccinated. Just be patient. I will be brief and I will end with this. I started with Socrates, I want to end with a deerism. That means I made it up, right? In order for you to get something that you never had, you got to do something that you never done. Get vaccinated. God bless you.
There's other big vaccination sites, but as you know, lots of seniors, not just here in Cook County, but rural Illinois, transportation is a huge issue. So is the state, is the county working on any sort of transportation program to actually get folks like seniors to the vaccination?
So that's a great question. I think for anybody who didn't hear it, the question was for those who don't have transportation to one of these sites, for example, to the many sites that are opening up, whether it's a Walgreens or a county public health department, how will they get that transportation so that they can get vaccinated? First of all, we at the Illinois Department of Public Health have been working with the 97 local public health departments to provide them any support that they may need. And of course, they often already have plans to deal with the fact that particularly in rural areas, there are many people who may not have a vehicle but may need a ride. So it's good that we have these local public health departments that know their counties and know all the regions within their counties. to help with that. And then finally, I would say it's very important for us to get the word out to everybody across all the rural counties as well as across Cook County that they can get in line now. They can either book an appointment now, or they can sign up to get notified when there is an appointment available, so that the county public health department can then help them get to the site of their vaccination when they need it. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask you about distribution challenges. Obviously, we all know there's a shortage. There's a shortage nationwide. But if we look at the ranks near the bottom of the states in terms of the percentage of population that has had a first dose administered.
Well, let me start with Illinois is 6th in the nation in terms of the number of doses that have been administered. Very proud of that fact. We continue to make sure that we're vaccinating in 1A, which is the original phase here. I also want to point out that one of the, I talked a little bit earlier about the failings of the Trump administration. One of the things that they did was they created this federal pharmacy partnership program with 2 large pharmacy companies to do all the vaccinating at our nursing homes, at our various assisted living facilities. We have about 1,700 of them across the state of Illinois. And that program has gone exceedingly slow. And the federal government required that the number of vaccines be taken out of our entire allotment. All the vaccinations that are necessary for that entire group have been taken out already of our allotment. And they sit on shelves because that federal pharmacy partnership is so slow at the job. Having said that, I have had numerous conversations. My team is in regular communication with those companies, and they have promised that they will get through the first visits to assisted living facilities by February 15th.
I did want to ask you to clarify something for me because,
Sure.
and I don't know if your numbers are up to date, but the New York Times has a chart of how the states are doing.
Yeah.
And it is the New York Times that has Illinois near the bottom of the list. But they also have saying that Illinois has received about 1.4 million doses of vaccine, and that only half of them have been administered. Is that the reason why exactly what you just said?
Yeah, there are hundreds of thousands of doses that have been removed from our ability to vaccinate others and put aside for people who are in long-term care facilities. So that's hundreds of thousands right there. And then in addition, as I've said for more than a week now, or actually a couple of weeks, there's a time lag between the time that someone gets vaccinated and the time that that gets reported to the CDC, which is then there's a time lag between that and the New York Times or anybody else being able to publish that number. So you immediately get published the number that have been delivered to a state, but there's a time lag in the time between someone is administered a dose of vaccine and at the time that that gets reported.
We should also be clear, though, if you're looking at numbers from a basis of a percentage of our population, Illinois has 13 million people, Idaho has not that many. So that's not the best metric.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I do this on a number of other metrics as well, it's as you can imagine, in a state like West Virginia, there are many, many, many fewer long-term care facilities, for example. And so the idea that the 1,700 here are equivalent somehow to the, I don't know, very few in West Virginia isn't taken into account in any listing by the New York Times or anybody else. They're just taking it by, they don't even consider the size of the state.
Now let me ask you about phase 1B and just the challenges that, and everybody here has mentioned that in terms of patients, and it'll take some time, but for example, there's several of the collar counties that have said they're not even in a position to begin with phase 1B for another week or two because they're still making their way through 1A. Or Lake County's case saying that they don't even have enough partners signed up to administer the vaccine. How is the state looking to assist these individual counties that are having challenges getting to the next phase?
We're partnered with every single county. They have the ability to work with our Illinois Department of Public Health to improve their capabilities. We have an interesting system here in the state of Illinois with these 97 local public health departments. That's been the case since long before I became governor. And they are independent. They're independently appointed by and run by county governments across the state. Different county governments have different capabilities, have different dollars available to run their county public health departments. And as you probably know, before this pandemic, many of those local departments were never expecting anything like a pandemic, couldn't possibly deal with it as it came on. And we've been very strongly partnered with those smaller local public health departments. As to the Collier County departments, they reach out to us whenever they need help. The biggest challenge that they have right now is vaccine supply. It's not that they are sitting on, as you will hear, in fact, I think I just read in one of the local newspapers today, some were saying, if we only had more vaccine, we would be pushing it out more. We have the capability to do that. Please send us more vaccines. Frankly, that's exactly what I would like to do.
Is lack of resources also an issue, just in the sense of the money that you need in order to deal with all of these logistics?
The federal government in the CARES Act provided dollars for vaccinations, and so that's not the biggest challenge that we have. The biggest challenge, honestly, is without more vaccines coming in, you don't want to set up sites and have them sit idle when you only have 120,000 new doses coming in for first doses per week. Think about that, and think about the fact that at peak, this facility could vaccinate 18,000 people per week, and this is just one site. So you don't want to, overbuild, but you want to be ready with the infrastructure when the vaccines and the number of doses increase.
Governor, have you spoken
Yeah.
to the Biden administration about when we can expect an increase in the distribution of the vaccine?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. So to those who didn't hear the question, have I spoken with the Biden administration about when we might see an increase in the number of vaccines? Yes, I've had numerous conversations with leading members of the Biden administration. My team, both in the governor's office and the Department of Public Health, is regularly talking to the new appointees in the new administration. By the way, I think you all read that there was no plan left behind for them. Many of them, I spoke with one person this morning who said that when she came into the office just the day after inauguration, they had nothing. They were given no information. The people who had been there before left them with nothing to work with. So they've had to pick up the pieces from that. Having said that, President Biden did two very important things immediately. One is he authorized 100,000 new public health workers to work all across the United States. We haven't had any of that help from the prior administration, rather. So that's one very important thing. A second, of course, is the Defense Production Act, which I've been calling for since the very beginning of this pandemic. It should have been authorized at the beginning for PPE when we knew that we had vaccines in development and possibly ready for approval. It should have been invoked. Instead, what's happened is that the companies that are producing vaccine are selling the amounts that were contracted by the federal government to the federal government, which is distributing to us. The remainder being sold all over the world and outside the United States. We need to make sure that we're getting enough so that we can vaccinate everyone in the United States. And then, the Defense Production Act will allow us to.
Have they given you any indication of when that might come, that you might start seeing a boost in the numbers?
So it's hard for them to estimate. So they have not told us exactly when that will be. But suffice to say that the Defense Production Act allows you to free up all of the ingredients, all of the supply chain that are involved in the creation of vaccines, and allows the two companies, Moderna and Pfizer, to ramp up production in a more substantial way.
So there is a sense, however, that until the J&J vaccine is authorized,
I wouldn't say that. I want to express some optimism here because I really do believe, based on what I've heard, that we don't, that we all want the J&J vaccine to be effective and authorized. I don't know when that'll happen. Nobody's promised that. That's something you couldn't know without the scientists ruling on that. But prior to that, I do believe that these actions, in particular the invocation of the Defense Production Act, will allow us to increase production in the United States, and therefore for Illinois, which gets its fair share. We get the percentage of our population in Illinois. That's the percentage of the vaccines that are available to the entire country that come to us. It's a little less than 4%, I think, of the entire amount that is being produced. So, so we look forward to, you know, continuing to ramp up the first doses. And remember, we've also delivered, and this is very important, 100% of the second doses to people, and that's a very important, you know, getting almost 100% of everybody to show back up again 3 or 4 weeks later for that second dose to make sure that they're fully vaccinated. Very, very important, and that's happened.
Among this group of 1B, eligible people, are we prioritizing people within that, people with comorbidities that are 65 and older, or workers with comorbidities?
So the challenge with that, I want to be clear, right? The challenge with 1A has been that that because of the limitations of 1A, the numbers of people in 1A, that made it more challenging actually to get the vaccine doses into people's arms, because just you've got, you know, pockets of people that aren't as easily accessible. They may take more time to actually get accessed, and you've seen this federal pharmacy partnership, you know, slower than anybody expected. So I think our expectation is that because we opened up 1B, there won't be any doses that will sit for a day or 2 or 3. That in fact people will come here. We'll be allocating vaccine to all of the locations where we know we can run lots of people through, and we believe we'll be able to vaccinate many, many more, greater percentage at a time.
Question about
Yes.
the county vaccination site, maybe.
Yeah.
From the department. So you're asking people that are in phase 1B to be patient, and so can you just further explain what will happen if they go to your website, but then they're not able to get an appointment? What happens for them? Are they on a waiting list, or how does that work?
Sure. So every time someone comes to the site, they're going to enter their information. That's going to put you on a listserv that we will give you updates. We're also going to ask if you want us to give you updates, additional updates, just about the vaccine, its availability, information. So once you're on there, whether you're eligible or not, you're in queue, and we have the information. So if at any point we don't have appointments available for you, and you need to make sure that that you get availability, we will email you every single time new appointments are added to the website. So the website will only have, again, appointments for which we have vaccine and we can guarantee. If for some reason there's no appointments available, you are entered in queue. Every time we update the site with availability of appointments, you will get notifications based on that information, and if you're eligible at the time. So if you're at 1A, 1B, and 1C, it will continue to update. So if you went today and you registered and you were 1C, your information would say, we've now gotten your information. As soon as 1C became available, you would get an email saying you now are eligible, you can come back and you can schedule. And so that's the information and how it would work. So we encourage everyone again to be patient. You will be notified every single time that you are eligible and we have appointments available. You will get that information.